Hello, Thirsty Thursday. Happy Thursday. Good to see everybody. We are live on YouTube getting ready to do our This Nomadic Idea Podcast. We welcome everybody to the room. Really appreciate everybody coming in tonight. We have a super cool show for everybody.
Yep.
We cannot wait to talk to John and Mercedes. They are in our virtual green room.
Ooh.
I know. We
Ooh.
provided no snacks for them. So
That's
they're
really hard to do virtually.
I know, right? So they're standing by. Good to see everybody tonight. Who do we have in the room?
Yeah, it's actually really exciting. So we have several people here. We have Steve Turtle.
Mama Mac from Indiana. Hey, Mama Mac.
Steve Turtle's here, so welcome. Thank you so much for coming in. Actually, he was the first to join. And then, of course, Alice from Downsizing Makes Sense. Congratulations, by the way.
Full-timers.
Full-timers officially. So that's really exciting. Hit a little bit of a snag, but I suppose that is to be expected.
Randy's Adventures. Woo, let's get this party started.
Thank you, Randy. Hi, RV Kids TV is here. So hi, welcome. And then we have our dogs are here.
Right? Our dogs are in the background.
Justin and Christina's RV van life.
Oh yeah, hey, good guys. Good to see you guys. Awesome. Very
and
cool.
Then we also have Mama Mac, which I know you had already mentioned. Absolutely. So welcome. It's really good to see your name in here.
Tunstead in the house.
Mary Lou North. Hello.
That's awesome. Good to see everybody tonight.
And Tunsteed.
Yep. Very, very cool.
Am I saying that right?
Tunsteed, yes. Tunstead.
Let us know.
It could go either way. Randy, Tunsteed, Steve Turtle, very good to have you guys here. So we're super, super excited. We're going to let people come into the room a little bit at about 8:10. We're going to bring John and Mercedes from the RV Odd Couple here. Really appreciate them coming in and talking to us today about, they've got some really cool stuff going on, but they're really going to share not only with you guys, but they're going to share on the podcast about how they got started and, how this whole full-time RVing kind of started for them. So we're really super, super excited to bring that value. And I know for Alice and Larry for Downsizing Makes Sense, you guys just started. And so I think that's a great way to start our episode 1 of This Nomadic Idea Podcast. So very, very cool. Very, very cool. Thank you, Justin and Christine, for saying that.
Yes.
If you haven't done it, hit the thumbs up. That's very cool. Thank you so much for that. And yeah, that's very, very cool. So I'm going to go kind of over a couple things real quick. As everybody is coming in, I'm going to repeat this again, just so everybody knows how the show is going to work.
Right.
Tonight.
Well, because things have changed for us.
Every day, it seems like every day is a new day.
Every day is a new day, technically speaking.
So what we're going to do is we're going to have a specific show format because we want to get you guys out in your channel names out of the YouTube world for a minute and put it in the podcast world for a minute. And last week we talked about how many people are listening to podcasts. It's huge right now. So we want to help you guys do that. The other thing too is we want to try to keep it a certain format. So when we bring in the RV Odd Couple and moving forward with any other guests too, we're going to talk for about 10 minutes and banter back and forth. Say hello to everybody who comes into the live chat.
Welcome, you guys here.
Welcome.
Yes.
And then at some point in time between 8:10 and 9 o'clock, we're going to open up a Q&A. So you get to ask our guests in this particular episode in our stream, you get to ask John and Mercedes a question. So at some point in time between now and 9 o'clock, we're going to say we're going to open up Q&A. And what we would like you to do is that if you could type in question in all caps, so Ariane can see the question, And that's important because we want your name to be mentioned on the podcast. So if you just type in question in all caps and then ask your question, then we know, and I can post that on the screen. And so you get, your channel recognized on the podcast because we'll be recording at that time. And then we don't miss the question. If you ask a question before that, it probably won't get asked. So wait until we do the Q&A.
Yes, because we are kind of going to go off of the chat room there for a little bit while we're doing the recording of the podcast itself. So all of our focus is on our guests.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for that. The other thing too is that so because we're doing the live chat, for those who want to make a donation, a super chat, or just show the show some love while we are recording our podcast, not only will your question be answered on our podcast platform, but you're going to be a patron of the show. So it gives you another chance to get your name recognized. And of course, everybody can see that. And we can also mention your name. So ask a question. If you support the show, that's twice. And we are ready just this week. We're already on Apple Podcasts.
I know.
Stitcher,
exciting.
Podbean. I mean, we're in Spotify. So Spotify's reviewing it right now. We haven't even done an episode yet. We've just done the intro. So we're very super excited to bring you guys along with us and get your channel out there to all those people. So that's kind of like the format so far.
Yeah. So we have a couple of other people that have joined us. Avenger RV Adventure still gets me tongue-tied. RV Underway, to both of you, hey, welcome. Thank you so much for coming in. And then if I miss somebody else, I apologize.
Mama Max says, LOL, wait until you're my age, Ariane, then every day will be a new day. Did I change my drawers yesterday? Who knows? I love it. That's awesome, Mama Mac. Very, very cool. I love it.
Too funny.
RV Underway, very good to see you guys. Hey, Jim, I was with you yesterday. Wow, very, very cool. Thank you guys so much for coming in. Really appreciate it. We got all we got Nursing Our Travel Bug is here. Very cool.
And Barbara Carter, hello. How are you?
Well, hello to you. Very good. I'm glad you guys came in.
So really appreciate you guys joining tonight. I know that things have kind of altered from our Thirsty Thursdays, even though we're still doing it. We have obviously switched things up a little bit, but I'm really excited to see each and every one of you guys in this chat. I'm going to be going off of the chat here in just a moment as we get started for the podcast portion of tonight's event.
So Nursing Our Travel Bug, Tunstead, very good to see everybody. So glad you guys are here. So if you guys have a particular question, think about it, because when we announce Q&As, again, if you could all caps the word question and then write down your question or post your question, we'd really appreciate that. That's going to help Ariane a lot see the question. And so probably into the podcast, we're going to open it up and we're going to say, hey, we're going to open up some questions from our live chat, and that's when you want to post it right there. And it's going to be between 8:10 and 9 o'clock. So you want to stay tuned and ask a question. RV Odd Couple, John and Mercedes have been really super nice to come in and share their time with you and with us, and then put this on the podcast platform. So we're really super grateful that they came out. Really appreciate that. So get your questions ready. For our topic tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about, them kind of getting started and what decisions they made, and, what's been going on in their lives for a year. Of course, if you follow their channel, you know what's been going on with their lives, but we're going to try to get into some stuff that maybe they have not shared on their channel before for the podcast community. And it's so great because you guys are watching it. So that's kind of the value that we're going to give to all the people that are watching the stream tonight. So that's kind of cool to be able to do that. Geek Family Adventures is here.
Hello.
Good to see you guys. Very, very cool. Really glad you guys came and joined us. So for next week's show, real quick, we are going to have two people that are in this room right now. We're going to have Alice and Larry from Downsizing Makes Sense, because they just went full time like yesterday. So they're in it.
A few days ago.
A few days ago, they're in it. So they are going to be our guests next week, and we're really super excited to have them also. So very, very cool. I'm going to go into, we're at 8:11. We're going to go in and get ready to start the podcast. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Petrucci.
I am ready.
Are you ready?
I am.
Okay, so we're going to go. Ready? Here's set. Let's go. Let's do this.
This is not a drill.
Repeat, this is not a drill.
This is not a drill. Shall we begin? Let's begin. Shall we begin?
Welcome to This Nomadic Idea Podcast, where we share, discuss, interview people from all over who live a nomadic lifestyle. Whether it's a full-time RVer, a van lifer, those living in a schoolie, or someone who lives a more minimal lifestyle, this podcast is for you. We share the whys, the how-tos, and answer your questions live with those looking to live this alternative lifestyle. We are Scott and Ariane from This Nomadic Idea, and this podcast is for you.
By the way, This Nomadic Idea is sponsored by Blueberry Podcast Hosting. Blueberry is a big podcast hosting service that is easiest and most simple way to host your podcast. A powerful and professional podcast for you. If you are using WordPress, all you have to do is produce your podcast, write your blog post, and publish. It's that easy to do. Get on all the major podcatchers all at the same time. Just go to This Nomadic Idea and click on the Blueberry banner and receive 1 free month of hosting just by listening to this podcast.
This is episode 1, the RV Pod Couple. On this episode, we talk with John and Mercedes, who have just successfully completed their first year of living full-time in their fifth wheel RV. Why did they choose to leave the comforts of home and embark into a world that they knew nothing about? And what has been the outcome? They share their story and how they now share their own mistakes they've made along the way with others.
Well, I hear some laughing in the background there, John and Mercedes. Good to have you on our show. Really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your world, which is crazy, to join us on the podcast. We really, really super appreciate you guys coming in.
We're super excited to be here on your maiden voyage.
Yeah.
And thank you for asking us to be your first guest. You're really rolling the dice there, man.
Well, this is like really the second main voyage I've ran into you guys. The first one was pulling the Airstream down to Tampa, and then doing this big grid search to try to find you guys. It was only trying to find you between in 70,000 people at the show. But we're very happy that we did get to see you. So thank you so much for coming in and really being a part of the podcast world, which I encourage you. I think you guys would be great at a podcast. I really think the whole podcasting world should listen to the same content that you guys are putting out in your videos. And I guess for Ariane and myself, who are getting ready to go full time, and for other people that are getting ready to go full time, I've got to ask this question. What the heck?
He said, uh-oh.
What the heck made the decision to just, hey, I think it's a good idea to go live in an RV full time? So share, I know a little bit about your story, but for people that don't know you guys, share a little bit of that story about how that decision came to pass.
Sure. Well, we sold our company in Denver, Colorado back about 5 years ago, and we took that money and we invested it down in southern Florida. We bought a place that was right on the water. I had the dream all set up. The boat was in the backyard. I had it on the lift. And, I spent a whole couple of years, getting this place fixed up just the way I wanted it. Loved the seawall. We had dolphins in the backyard. And I guess the point here is that everything on the outside looked great, but in the inside, Mercedes and I were dying. Our marriage was falling apart. And I lived in the bottom portion of the house near the pool. And Mercedes lived in the top portion of the house, and we were falling apart. Mercedes had filed for divorce, and decided we were going to liquidate everything and split the proceedings and go our separate ways. And I guess that's how it started. What would you like to add?
Which is kind of a horrible way. So we decided to live in a tin can together. There's a couple things that happened in between there. So we were, going to go our separate ways. And, something happened at the closing table that there was a big shift. And there was, without getting too much into the nitty gritty, something happened at the closing table where I think John just had a moment where he saw like his life work. Like that's the dream that society tells you should have, right? Retired in Florida in a nice, pretty house and toys,
And
right?
boat. A boat.
Grown-up toys kind of thing. Like, and to really be like realizing that none of that mattered. And there's something about when you have to liquidate like that so quickly that you realize like, wow, I spent all this money on this stuff and it means nothing.
Right.
What a waste. And it was just collecting dust. And I thought I was just organizing it, really just moving the stuff around and filling this big house. And now, look, we're getting rid of it. And so he had that moment at the closing table.
A moment of clarity. I just said to myself, man, I've got a beautiful little girl. She was 3 at the time.
Yeah.
And everything that I thought I had worked my whole life for was just gone. It was gone. And I was losing my wife and my kid and my family. And I had a moment of clarity, and I approached Mercedes and I started, I broke down crying and asked her, if there's anything we can do. And Mercedes asked me to come over to the house. She had gotten a rental house all set up, and she asked me to come over to put on a doorknob, and she seduced me.
Okay.
The
That's a
doorknob.
catch.
That's what saved it. It was the doorknob.
Well,
Did you really think she was asking about the doorknob?
there was a little more that happened to that, but we just had that heart to heart. And then when you're in that situation where it doesn't matter anymore, it's already over, you can be really, really honest. And I was like, I told him I want boring, and I'm going to Zumba, and you're going to watch Sage. And I just lay down the law with the whole, you're going to watch
Nothing
Sage.
to lose. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And then we started watching YouTube, which I think he planted these RV YouTube channels. And
I've always wanted to RV or go out in a boat my entire life. That was, the ultimate dream for me. And I got Mercedes to start watching some YouTube videos of other YouTubers. And that's kind of how we started to rebuild our relationship together. We'd lay on the couch and we'd watch YouTube videos together. And I looked at her one night and I said, hey, I think we can do this.
Yeah.
And I said, would you be willing, to buy an RV, hit the road full time, with an RV in our kid? And she said, yes.
I mean, it took some time. There was a lot of things that I had to wrap my head around, and I had never been camping, let alone been RVing. And, he had to slowly broach the subject. And a big deal for us because I was thinking we get rid of everything we own and we just have our possessions in the RV, and that was really scary. So he's like, well, what if we get a storage? And that kind of freed up a lot of the fear for me, thinking that, okay, I don't have to throw everything away. I could just, just really only have with us the stuff that we actually use. And little by little, we did some research, and then we
started the process of what everybody should do when you jump into this life. We started doing the research on what type of a model of an RV we want to do. We started out thinking it was a Class A, but we ended up in a fifth wheel.
Yeah.
We started doing all the research to see how it was. And that's a really exciting time, right? So number one, we both have hope that we might be able to save our family.
Yeah.
That's one thing. Secondly, we hadn't gotten along for 4 years before this. We got further and further apart.
Yeah.
And then the excitement, right, of stepping out into an adventurous new life and seeing the entire country was both very, very exciting for us. You know, when we went through the downsizing process, and that was tough because Mercedes had to decide what she wanted to keep and what she didn't want to keep. And I had a whole bunch of tools that, you know, I had to break down too. So,
Well, the funny thing about I love your story, and the thing I keep on thinking back to is that a lot of times Ariane will tell me you may be seen and not heard when she's mad at me, and you know, but the one thing I just never came up with was like, you know, hey, you know, I know you're angry with me, but let's go live really super small in a confined space. You know? And so, you know, that's been a really, I wouldn't say decision, but that's something that we really had kind of taken into account when we bought the Airstream, because the Airstream is only 180 square feet.
right.
And, you know, for Ariane and I, we're best friends first. I mean, we're best friends. And so it was pretty, I guess it was pretty easy to turn on the best friend switch when it comes to, like, you know, seriously, you know, could you move over, or, you know, and living in a smaller space. And so how long was it before you guys made the decision to say, hey, I think this is something we want to do, and then actually pulling away from the house? How long was that?
About 6 months.
Yeah.
It was a total of about 6 months. So believe it or not, we did research everything, and we did look into the right RV. We got onto tons of them.
Yeah.
You know, our biggest mistake was where we bought our RV. That was the biggest first mistake we made, and it was kind of a blessing in disguise for us. Because we made a video, and in that video I was pretty pissed off at how dumb I was when I made the mistake of buying this RV from we're not even allowed to say the words in our house anymore.
It's like a bad word.
From CW. And we shared that experience, and it seemed to help a lot of people.
Well, John, don't feel bad. My biggest mistake was when I said, I think I can renovate an RV. So don't feel bad at all. I think it's all the same club. So you guys go out there, and you know, you push off, and my biggest question is all the fear, the 6 month of planning. You know, you have this trepidation, you're trying to figure things out, you know, and well, what if? How much of a fear that kind of manifested through watching all the YouTube videos and blah, 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 you know, how much of the fear that you first had about doing this lifestyle and living day by day, full-time in an RV actually has happened in the year you've been out there?
I would say, because I think the biggest fears that we had was like, that I had,
Right.
falling on our face, you know, like, what if we go into this confined space and we realize, this was the worst decision ever.
Right.
And then also obviously like accidents, like, you know, auto accidents, those things are always, you know,
Right.
But I think that fear, like, even though we've had some really rough spots, none of those fears have really materialized. I think the worst part is that angst and anticipation of like what could happen. But when we're really in the moment, those difficult times actually make us go back to back, like, because we have a common goal.
It's a team sport. RVing's a team sport when it's a couple, and you better be best friends.
Yeah. And you better have a sense of humor, and you better not take yourself so seriously, and you know, move on, because life is too short to be wasting time.
And for me, I mean, what really, I really didn't have much fear. I was so freaking excited to get out and see this country. You know, I'm an adventurer. I'm a little boy inside, and I want to see as much of this, not only the planet, but definitely the United States of America as I possibly can. The one fear that I had is that it was one thing to be total living in separate parts of a 3,000 square foot house and having 2 cars and being able to get away from each other.
Yeah.
Then
And
you
a
go-
pool. And
Right.
a pool. You had the pool.
Right. And, you know, but ultimately, that fear didn't come. What I was afraid of was that Mercedes and I were going to get into this, and Mercedes was going to hate the lifestyle. Because remember, guys, Mercedes never had even camped overnight before.
Yeah.
So I was terrified we were going to get out there. She was going to hate it. And the truth is that that's not how it unfolded. We became stronger. And then as the challenges came up, like Mercedes said, we went back to back and we were ready to fight back, you know, and we're going to fight for this marriage, for our family. And a big piece of our entire story is God for us. It's our relationship with God. And we believe that relationship has gotten stronger and stronger and stronger as we go. And we never imagined that it was going to turn into this, that we would become popular on YouTube. And we're still not sure exactly why that happened. But now it's turned into almost like the drive, right? That we do. Like, we want to help as many people as we can not make the mistakes that we made. And now, you know, we're sharing a course and teaching people how we do YouTube, you know, and we spend a lot of money to do that. So we just consider ourselves extremely blessed. It's not to say that we haven't had some tough days in the RV. There's no such thing. We struggle sometimes, but we get through it pretty quick because we don't want to waste any time, and we don't want to be a bad example for our daughter.
Right. So in the year so far that you've been out there, has there ever been a time? Well, I know there's been a time, but overall, if you had to take that year away and everything would have been fine, you could have, you know, stayed back at home. What are some of the experiences and some of the like awe moments that you would have missed? I mean, I saw one of your videos, John, and what I really connected with what you had said. You said when you were at home, you used to have these habits. One of them was watching news all the time, you know, but now that you're in RVing, you know, you're full time, you know, that's not really something that is afforded to full timers all the time. And you had mentioned that a lot of your habits are completely, you don't do those anymore. So do you have any like big regrets? Like, would you have a regret to say, oh man, we never should have done it because of this, this, and this, or it was a big change in our lives, but that's what made it better?
Yeah, and I think it's the latter. I think for me, this year has flown by so fast. We work hard at doing what we do, you know. And I had a lot of bad habits. I used to like politics and watching the news. And when I got to Florida and I had nothing to do, I started drinking too much. 5 o'clock started getting a little bit earlier and earlier and earlier. So,
5 o'clock.
you know, when we set out on the road, my job was to be a father and a good husband, you know, and I started focusing on that. Me and Mercedes became a team. And we've been getting closer and closer to our creator, period.
Yeah. And I would add to that one of the things that we were considering before deciding to RV was to move to Sarasota, right? And we drove through Sarasota less than a week ago through this wretched traffic. And we looked at each other and said, we almost decided to live here. We would have missed sand dunes. We would have missed birds in Yosemite. We would have missed the Oregon coast. We would have missed like my mom's house and Mooch Docking in her front, in her driveway. We would have missed like all the friends and the friendships that we have. And it's funny because everything tough that has happened to us, like the whole buying mistakes that we've made, you know what? We set out to help people not do that. And it actually ended up being the best thing that could happen. So like everything negative has turned into a positive because it's an opportunity to be like, okay, don't do that.
Right. Some of the worst things that have ever happened in my life have turned out to be the best things that could have happened. And some of the things that I thought were great ended up being some of the worst things that could have happened. So we just trust that whatever's put in front of us is supposed to be there. And we do the best we can with it.
And who would have thought that a rare protected bird would have nested
I know.
on your ladder in your RV? I mean, that was just, I mean, if that doesn't say life happens, we're not leaving anytime soon.
Yeah, because our YouTube channel had exploded. Mercedes and I were exhausted. We were working 60, 70, sometimes 80 hours a week. And then these freaking birds showed up in the back of the RV. And what we thought was horrible ended up being the biggest blessing. It was for us. It was somebody was slowing us down and saying, stop, take a breath, and look what I've created for you guys. And Sage we used to spend mornings with coffee and Sage looking out at those birds. We got to watch them lay the eggs. They would literally a foot from our face every morning. Watch them hatch, watch them fly away. And we did have one of our first moments RVing was when Mercedes and I drove into Yosemite, and you come out over that hill and you see it for the first time. Both of us started crying. I literally had to pull off to the side of the road. We were both in tears because it's more beautiful than you could ever imagine. There's just no words. It's like tripping as a kid, There's just no words to describe it.
Right.
So I have to ask you, 1 year later, do you guys still have the storage unit?
Yeah.
We
and
do.
they put the price on us. So now we have this whole issue, like, do we get rid of it? And what about the photo albums? Are we going to drive around with photo albums? I mean, it's like.
So we spent $1,400 last year to store stuff we don't need. And now the price is up to $1,800. And we're actually getting ready to go clean that thing out and dump it.
So that's a big part of it, because your perspective has probably altered so dramatically in ways that you couldn't have anticipated going in with fears. And then having experienced, it really negates a lot of those fears head on. So I'm really excited to hear that you guys are going back and revisiting that aspect of things.
RV life simplifies everything.
And I feel like I need to say one big disclaimer, though. We are not saying that if you are on the brink of divorce, you should sell it. I feel like we need to do a warning, disclaimer, caution. Like, we are not saying to go with your spouse in an RV if you are fighting and guaranteeing results. Like, we're just telling our story. And
it's just our experience.
Yes.
Yeah, we're sharing our experience.
Well, that's I think you guys have a really unique story because, through everything. See, I think your journey started at the doorknob. I think that's where your journey started. Really. You just didn't know it yet.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like, that's what I love about hearing everybody's stories about how they got to where they are now. For me, it was backpacking it was kind of the same thing. It's like my journey started the day I watched a video or I read a story about, people hiking through 14 states. And I'm like, what the heck is an Appalachian Trail? I didn't even know what it was. Right. So I think, like how you get there in life, it's almost like when you have that seed or you have that dream of doing something different.
Yeah.
And you're not living the life you want to. Mm-hmm. I really do believe that the universe starts working despite your better intentions to put you where you're going to be.
Yep. You just nailed it right on the head, because when we started this new life, we saw it as almost a resurrection of our marriage and our family. We started asking every day to be guided exactly where we need to go, and then trusting where we landed in everything that we did. We asked to put the right people in our lives. We asked to, put as many people, whoever comes in front of us, we'll do the best we can to help them. And so we're still doing the same thing today. It's that ritual of waking up in the morning, being thankful for today, and looking to what we can do to make this world a better place with the tools that we have at hand. And, the tools we've got now are beyond anything we could have ever imagined. The work is brutal, but we're having a blast, and we're trusting that we're exactly where we're supposed to be. Someday we're right where we're supposed to be.
And you are exactly where you're supposed to be. No question about that. So we're going to take a few questions from our live chat. It looks like we've got some good ones. I am looking at.
We're going to go with Steve Turtle. Steve from Steve Turtle has a question for you guys. He said, you had an amazing story. What has been your most memorable moment since starting full-time RVing?
For me, it's watching Sage play in the sand dunes, because it was like every kid, likes playing in the sandbox, but like the sand dunes in Pismo Beach, that was epic.
Right. And mine's Yosemite for sure.
Was it Yosemite and the bird situation, or just Yosemite in general?
I think I had a spiritual experience in Yosemite that was right around 6 months, where I broke down and trusted that I didn't have to run the show anymore. That that I could just move forward, and we were going to be taken care of as long as we did our part.
So thank you, Steve Turtle, YouTube channel, Steve Turtle. Downsizing Makes Sense has a question. What do you think made your YouTube channel explode so quickly? That's Downsizing Makes Sense.
We're not sure.
No.
Like the honesty, that is your MO.
A couple of things that we like to do. We like to get to the point quickly, not waste our people's time. Share everything that we think would be helpful. If someone you loved were asking you this question, what would you tell them?
Mm-hmm.
And the third thing is be yourself. Don't try to be so politically correct and everything's like, if you're too neutral, you won't stand for anything. Not everyone's going to like you, and that's okay. Just be true to who you are.
Yeah, and again, when we set out, we promised each other in prayer that, hey, we're gonna tell the truth no matter what, even when it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
And most of the stuff that we've shared that was embarrassing is actually some of our best stuff.
Yep. So Floyd Fernandez asked a really good question. By the way, Floyd, thank you for being a patron of the show. Really appreciate that. He asked a really good question. What was the first sign that you had made the right choice?
Mercedes was still there after a month.
The first night that we took the RV out, there was like this torrential storm, and it was like, we were in the RV and we didn't know how loud weather was in the RV. So at first I was like, oh, what did we do? Because it was like lightning and all this crazy rain out of nowhere. But I don't know. I think that for me, it wasn't like just one experience all of a sudden. It was just like little coincidences, little like God shots that we're doing the right thing and things are how it should be.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty cool. All right. RV Kids TV had a really good question. What's one piece of advice you would give someone going full time in a year?
Have enough money. Have a plan.
We hear a lot.
Do not jump into this lifestyle and not have, number one, have a plan. Number two, have a budget. And we put a year aside, and we knew that if we couldn't make YouTube work in a year, where we could make that little additional money that we needed to live the life we wanted to, that we would give up, and that's not what happened. So I would just say, have a plan and have enough money. Don't think you're going to sell the house and move onto the road.
And you'll figure it out. It's so bad. And we've seen so many families destroyed doing that. We've known 3 personally that jumped into this thinking that they were going to do YouTube or online marketing and it was going to work out. And 3 months later, they were broke and busted.
Well, your last video was pretty honest about that. And I think that should be more of the norm than the exception in that category, as far as, hey, look, you better diversify with a lot of different things, because the YouTube gig, and there's a lot of people doing it, but in the end, that's not where most of the channels make their income. And I think your last video really hit the nail on the head as far as being very frank and honest about what you guys are doing and what you've seen other people do along the way.
Yeah.
And I think you even shared a story about, there are people that are going out there, but then they have to, the very one thing that they wanted as their dream, they've got to walk away because for whatever reason, they didn't have enough money to sustain themselves.
Yeah, and there's so much more that, I mean, there's so much behind the scenes, and I don't know why we don't talk about money a little bit more, you know, and about the behind the scenes of the AdSense, because people think if I just get my channel monetized, I'll be rich. And, you know, we did pretty well, and we don't do a Patreon, and we don't do sponsorships. Like, we don't let a company pay us
and tell us what to say.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So, I mean,
our job is pretty much to shine a light and share our experience.
Yeah.
Our experience will probably not be anybody else's experience, but if we do this honestly and openly, then people are going to at least know the good and the bad of everything. And and so that's kind of our job now. We respond to every comment on the RV Odd Couple. That's the other reason we think our channel did really well, is that we actually listen to our people, and we get to know who they are, and we consider them our family on the road, the RV Odd Squad. We love them. They taught us how to RV.
Yep.
Why? Because we were completely honest. We said, we don't know what we're doing. Can you help us? And they did. And so, you know, now we've got people reaching out to us constantly in these comments, sharing, you know, cancer and children and all these things. And, you know, they tell us that thank you for telling us the truth, because I never really quite thought of that. And the emails we really love are the ones that say, like, you know, I was going to do this and I changed my mind. No matter what way they were going to go, we just help to shine a light of truth on what it's actually like.
Well, how many, what I'd like to know is how many RVers get out of their RV to help you back up that gigantic fifth wheel? And you're
He's pretty good, and he has the backup camera, so he can see behind.
Yeah.
Which actually, when people try to help him, it makes it worse. It's
I
better
hate
if
it when
he's left.
people help me because they, you know, and then when we first started, I'd have Mercedes go back and try to help me a couple of times, and it just didn't work out. So I take my time. I've got a backup camera. And thank God that probably saved our marriage right there.
I was about to say, you don't want to end the marriage on the road again here. So
I truly believe the person who invented the backup camera is a genius, and he probably doesn't realize exactly how many relationships they have saved with the backup camera.
It's the one thing I'm really good at in RVing, because I was a contractor my whole life. And so I know how to drive a truck and I know how to pull a trailer. So the trailer, even though I've never driven anything so big and had that much blind spot, it's actually something I'm pretty proud that I do correctly. It's probably the only thing that I do absolutely correctly so far.
Well, we have another, that cracks me up. We have another question from Randy at Randy's Adventures.
Oh, we love you, Randy. Hey, Randy. We love Randy.
Do you have a new fondness for birds? And what is your favorite bird?
I totally have a new fondness for birds. I have an appreciation for how they mother and how they, you know, what they do, because their eggs are out there and they have to protect them. Mammals hold their babies, you know, and no, they have to protect the eggs. So I have a lot of appreciation. I do have to say, when I see a bluebird, I pay attention. I do see that as a sign, like, okay, some good stuff's about to happen. I pay attention to that.
And I like bald eagles, and I like hummingbirds. I love hummingbirds. I think they're just so cool.
Very, very cool. My parents were much like birds. When I was got a little bit older, they kicked me out of the house.
Me too. I was on my own at 16, so I get that.
They were like, "Get out!" Oh man. Well, I think you know, I think the crux of your story is that, you know, your someday ended up being that day. It was the day you decided that things weren't going right, things had to change, and if it didn't change, you weren't going to fulfill who you both are. And I'll tell you what, I am so glad we were able to meet you guys, and so glad I got to say hi to you in Tampa. Just you both are really great people. Thank you for giving the community a very honest, realistic look at some of the things that you are going through in your first year of really living a nomadic life. I always say that if you have to try to predetermine where you're going to empty out your black tank, you're pretty nomadic.
Well, I think it's just life is a spiritual journey for all of us. We got to figure out what that path is each individually, and we've found what we're supposed to be doing. And there's a lot of solace in just knowing that I don't have to figure it out anymore. Just one day at a time, and help as many as I can as we go. And it's all good. We're taken care of.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for coming into the podcast. We really super appreciate
Very much appreciate
you
it.
guys coming in for our very first episode. I just really so grateful that you guys came in and got to know you guys. And I really hope that we get to boondock someplace together sometime, and get to know each other and put the cameras down and just go out and just have fun. I really my goal is to put both of you into the Okefenokee swamp.
Poor Scott is there. I don't know about that. I don't know.
No.
If you can reunite your marriage and live in a small space after having moved into separate areas, I think you can do that.
You can do it in a kayak.
I think you can do this.
So anyway, you guys, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Just again, thank you guys so much for being on the podcast.
Yeah,
Thanks
bless
for
you guys.
having us.
We'll see you later.
Bye, you guys.
Bye-bye.
We want to thank John and Mercedes for coming in and sharing their story and advice with us. And thank you to all of our listeners. You can join This Nomadic Idea Podcast community on Facebook and get exclusive content starting next week. Just go to Facebook and go to our Facebook page, This Nomadic Idea. A special thanks to our Patreons in tonight's episode, Floyd Fernandez and Steve Turtle. Thank you so much for your support on episode 1.
Yeah, you can catch both of them on YouTube. Floyd, I think you're Facebook. I don't know if you have a YouTube channel, but thank you so much for being a patron. Steve Turtle has some of the best content on YouTube. You got to go check out his channel. Our podcasts are available on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify as of today, Stitcher as of today, Podbean, and any of your other favorite podcatchers. You can also follow us on our Instagram page, This Nomadic Idea. And just remember that all great achievement in life gets started with an idea. So go live the life you want. We'll see you guys later. Okay, that's our podcast. Hey.
So we are back on comments now. To each and every one of you who have been in this chat room and talking, we beyond appreciate everything.
Yeah.
So exciting to have aired the first episode of This Nomadic Idea Podcast, and you guys were a part of it. A huge thank you to each and every one of you. I know there were some questions that we didn't get to, but I love all the questions. So perhaps we'll have to figure out in an email if they can respond to some of those.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll try and reach out to them and actually get you guys some answers as a follow-up piece if we can. It's really exciting. So we had some other people that joined the room. Donna Delahante, thank you.
Hello, great live stream. Thanks for sharing your story. Really appreciate it. Floyd's on Mixer. Floyd is on Mixer. So go check out his stream on Mixer. Very, very
I
cool.
wish I knew that.
It's a live streaming platform. Absolutely. So thank you so much, Floyd, for that. Exciting. Mary Lou North says, exciting to be here. Great live and podcast. Thank you so much. We really appreciate that also. So yeah, it was really fun. I mean, I'm really glad it worked out the way it did. I think technically it went well. The stream went well.
You probably saw we had a few minor hiccups in like where we were doing, but it went pretty good.
Yeah, but I think it went real well.
Yeah. So I just wanted to personally thank you outside of the podcast realm. Floyd and Steve, thank you so much for your support to the show and to what we're doing, and I deeply appreciate it. Thank you so much for that support.
We know there's another stream going on right now, and for the people that do come in and watch the stream, we really super appreciate that. The podcasts are going to be available every Monday morning from now on. So Monday morning,
good to know.
Stitcher, Apple Podcasts. All you have to do is put that feed in there, and it automatically comes on your phone. You can listen to it, but it's always going to be there Monday morning. It's going to hit all the podcatchers, usually around 7 o'clock in the morning. So if you want to hear the edited version of this, you can go ahead and listen to that. So
I wanted to just say hi to a couple other people real quick. So Jerry Holly, thank you.
Hey, Jerry, how are you? Good to see you.
And then also Masters Ministries. I missed you up at top. I saw your comment come through, but I wanted to say hello and thank you so much for joining us. You're a brand new name to us, so very exciting.
Cool. Thank you for coming in. Really appreciate it.
Downsizing Makes Sense tweeted the live stream. Thank you. That's cool. We really enjoyed doing this.
Yeah.
We had a lot of fun.
Randy goes, did you name the name of the podcast? It's This Nomadic Idea Podcast. So it's the same brand as our YouTube channel. The same brand is from our website, This Nomadic Idea Podcast. This podcast will always be downloaded on our website too. So if you want to just go to thisnomadicidea.com, you can listen to the podcast right there from our website. It's always going to be available because that's really where the magic happens with Blueberry Hosting, who sponsors the show and our podcast and our website. It automatically picks it up from the website. So you want to go to thisnomadicidea.com and you can listen to the podcast there.
Mama Max said, great job, y'all. I'm going to Facebook to follow you so I don't miss out on your next one. Our next one is Downsizing Makes Sense next week. Downsizing Makes Sense is going to be with us talking about their journey. Brand new to this. I'm sure there will be a lot of fun new information that you guys don't even know about yet. We don't even know about it yet.
Excited because you got to hear you're going to have two different perspectives. You get John and Mercedes, who's been out there for a year, and say, oh boy, can we tell you what we've done wrong, and share their mistakes. And then Larry and Alice from Downsizing Makes Sense, who I got to meet at the Tampa RV show, who I just had so much fun with. They made that whole show so much better because you weren't there. I was lonely. And not that anything happened with us. I'm just saying.
Did anybody else hear that? It was so much fun to be at that show because you weren't there.
No, they kept me.
I caught that.
They kept me. No, they would come to visit me. I guess that's what I'm saying.
Your choice of
wording.
Well,
I may be seen and not heard.
Perhaps perhaps the choice of wording, but also the way you just led into it.
Well, they're going to be on the show, and so it'll be interesting to see their perspective on how they're just getting started and what they've done to downsize their life.
Yeah.
And we follow them on Instagram. The funny thing is, like, we're seeing the countdown on their Instagram page of them going. So we're really super excited and very happy for them.
Very excited for them. Downsizing Makes Sense has a little face with a little teeth showing. So I'm not sure if that's a nervous thing or we're really excited to have you in next week's episode.
Steve Turtle said Scott stepped on his lip. I do it all the time. All the time.
So I'm not the only one who heard that. And Floyd said, backpedal, sir, backpedal.
Right.
No worries. There's no aftermath.
For as much as you keep things in the vault, there really is no backpedaling. Once you say it, it's in there.
Oh, too funny. But I'm really excited what happened tonight. This has been something that we have been full force on, totally pumped about, offering you guys a completely different avenue and a platform. So if you guys want to get on the podcast, please do reach out to us.
So and thank you for reminding me, because Downsizing Makes Sense is next week, and then we have Joyous Voyagers coming
Yep.
in on next week's, and they're building a homestead, and they've lived in a little guy Max for a year. So we're really super excited to have all these nomads on the podcast and really get our podcast going. Really very excited about that.
Right.
We just had sushi with Joyous Voyagers, and we had way too much sushi. So
I didn't eat until the next day.
so anyway, you guys, thank you guys so much. That's our stream. We're at 8:55. We're gonna kind of say good night to everybody. Really appreciate that. Really appreciate everybody coming in and saying hello. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you for the patrons for the podcast. Your name again will be mentioned Monday morning. That's when the podcast is out. Yeah, I think that's it, you guys. Are we done? Are we ready? Are we saying good night?
It's kind of sad too, but yeah, I think we could say good night. Good night, you guys. Thank
Good night,
you
you
so
guys.
much again for joining us.
All right.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.